1. Perfect. This is the Looking Glass special. This is our state of the MCU address. I'm your host, Henny, aka X, AppRockets392. Y'all know this tag, Excelsior bitches. Take it away with my slenderous co-host.
This is Church at Coffin Boy God. Yeah, on the other episode, I already plugged what I plugged, but I guess I'll do it again. Just play DMC5, watch and read Deadly Class. Those are the most important homework.
Mind you, this should not coming out for a month. So
well, still.
All right, man. This is our state of the MCU address. In this episode, we'll be going through each MCU movie, giving what we thought of it and how it's impacting the MCU. So let's just go ahead and start off. Iron Man, the kickoff to the MCU. This is Robert Downey Jr.'s return to Hollywood. He became an infamous Coke boy back in the day, but he was welcomed back with open arms with this movie. This movie, Iron Man, was received well by both critics and fans. In the end credits scene, debuts Nick Fury and gives us a little bit of a look into what they call the Avengers Initiative. Church, how'd you feel about this movie?
This is actually, my first, because I mentioned before, I wasn't into comics. I love superheroes, but I didn't read comics, so this is my first real introduction to Iron Man. And man, I love this movie because it showed it had everything. It had the humor, it had the serious, I don't think I've seen since, obviously now, but I haven't seen Tony this serious
in a long time.
In a long time. Like that, he was going through it in that desert, bro. And it just really showed the fall from grace that Tony had into becoming Iron Man, and it's really great. Still to this day, it holds up really well. I think you could argue that it looks better. Iron Man CGI looks better than it does now.
You could make that argument. It's really good in this movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was eating pineapples, but this movie is just. I remember I hadn't seen it in a while, and I don't know where I got it in my head that it had it wasn't as good as I thought it was. It was better than I remembered.
Yeah.
This is still a top 5 MCU movie. Top 3 if you really want to argue it.
No, I definitely agree. It was wow. I gotta rewatch it one of these days. It's been a while, but yeah. It's so good, bro. It's so good.
Yeah, and this is quite possibly the greatest comic book, adaptation ever of a character. This Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man might be the greatest portrayal of a comic book character of all time.
You could argue that. You could definitely argue it.
What do you feel like this movie did for the MCU? Obviously, it started it off, it kicked everything off. What do you think it did?
It's tough to say now because the MCU is so wildly different than it was. But without it, we wouldn't be here. It's probably the most important film in the MCU. Yeah. You could argue it's the most important movie. As it probably should be, since it's it wasn't first up, but it was because Hulk technically, right?
Hulk no, Iron Man was first and Hulk came after.
Really? Okay. Then yeah,
I think so.
I don't remember. It's the most important movie though, so it definitely had a huge impact on. Imagine if this had flopped, where we'd be.
Yeah, it was because this is what happened that summer. This summer that this movie dropped, The Dark Knight also came out that summer.
Yeah.
So a lot I feel like this movie's been kind of forgotten a little bit because you get this movie, which is a great comic book movie. This is an all-time great comic book movie, definitely top 10. And then you have the greatest of all time drop the same summer. It's almost like Paul George coming out and then LeBron James or Michael Jordan coming out very after.
Right.
It's weird because like I said before, I feel like this movie gets thrown by the wayside a little bit. People don't respect it as much as they should.
I think it's kind of been forgotten about.
Mm-hmm.
In the grand scheme of things, I think people have forgotten a lot of Phase 1 and how influential it was, because I was basically standing these movies in Phase 1. because they were that gassed because they managed to get all the tone stuff perfectly down. So, yeah.
But what would you give this movie out of 10? Honestly,
9.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. 9. I remember watching this on Amazon Prime a year ago. I was like, "Holy shit, this is still good." This is one of the few times they killed off a villain in the same movie, but the villain was still good.
Yeah,
like Obadiah Stane was an evil man, dog, and he holds up. And the fight too was really like everything about this movie just hit on all cylinders. The only thing I didn't like was Gwyneth Paltrow, honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. I definitely agree with you.
All right, man. Next movie is The Incredible Hulk. This is kind of the forgotten stepchild of the MCU. It featured Ed Norton as Bruce Banner, but he was also, as we know, he was later recast to Mark Ruffalo. This movie came out with a mixed reception. A lot of people forget this movie ever existed, man. But it was considered an improvement on Ang Lee's Hulk, which is killed critically and hated by fans alike. And it featured the Abomination as a villain, which is a good foil for the Hulk in this movie. What did you think about The Incredible Hulk, Church?
I like both the old Hulk movies because I was young, so like you think everything's gassed when you're young, and I still appreciate them. But bro, this movie scared me. Like,
it scared you?
Yeah, it scared. Like, the Abomination was literally terrifying.
Wow.
Like, I mean, think about it, bro. 2000, what was it? 2009, 2008. So what? I was 9.
Yeah.
It's reasonable for it to scare me.
That's fair.
It's because like those movies, well, the Ang Lee one and this one, they tackled the horror element of Hulk like only. You know what I mean? Like the Hulk now is like it's like the other side only. You need to be able to mix both, but this was like the horror side only, and like I really liked it. Like the fight scenes were good. That last battle between the two of them, was fire. So like I appreciate this movie, and I'm when we talk about impact, like I'm upset that this didn't have an impact that I wanted. Like it's the flip side of Iron Man. This wasn't received well because I don't know why it wasn't, but like the horror elements is the stuff that I want to see out of Hulk. A lot of people want to see out of Hulk, and we just haven't gotten it since this.
This movie it's kind of a mixed bag. I really enjoyed the movie. I've been ever since I saw this movie, I thought it was really good. But it just it got to the point until Civil War, people didn't consider it canon in the MCU,
I forgot. I actually did not know it was canon until I would say a year ago.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because I was always wondering, like, they just throw Hulk in here and then Avengers with no intro. Like, I didn't even know because the recast floored me. Remember, you have to understand, when it came out, I wasn't on Twitter.
I remember the moment this shit came out. I remember exactly what I was doing.
Like, I wasn't around Twitter for, like, I joined in 2014, I think. So I wasn't in the loop about film stuff. So like I didn't even know we got recasted. So when I saw it with Mark Ruffalo, I was like, what?
Who's this?
I thought it was like an Ang Lee sequel, the Ang Lee one. I thought it was a sequel to that. So confused, man. But I liked it.
Yeah. It was. I really enjoyed it. I really like this interpretation of Hulk. It kind of stripped him down a little bit,
I seen Hulk thunderclap. That's the funniest thing.
That honestly, it always gets me. It always gets me. But like, he wasn't as strong as he used to be. But that was good because it made him feel more human, I guess. But like this entire cast, like no one talks about it anymore. Like we have not seen Betty Ross since this.
Yeah, he's simping for different things now. Yeah,
and like this movie will probably ever get a sequel. There will probably never be a Hulk movie, another Hulk solo movie in the MCU because the company that distributed this movie was Universal. And back in the beginning days in the MCU, that's how they distributed the movie. So Iron Man was distributed to Universal, and Incredible Hulk was too. It was after this they started doing it themselves.
I wonder why Universal holds so tightly onto Hulk. Like they don't do anything with them. It's not like Sony where they do stuff with the character. They don't even they just put them in amusement parks.
Like this movie only made about $200 to $300 million. So this wasn't like a huge, bank for them. It wasn't a bag.
Yeah.
Iron Man was a bag. This movie was not a bag though. Iron Man made like 600. This movie made 2. You know, it's literally a third of the size. So even then, though, that's still a crazy haul for most movies. So it's understandable. Like I think the price to get the rights back to this movie is like somewhere around $100 million straight up. And I think at this point, Marvel could pay that.
They don't care about Hulk though. That's the thing. Because if they did, they'd have got him. They don't went and got him.
Yeah, he's been relegated to the side.
Yeah, and like even in Infinity War, they didn't even want to fork up the money to get him. The Hulk like CGI'd in there. They were done. They're like, you're done. Get in the Hulkbuster suit.
I mean, the Infinity War CGI is another discussion. But what's your score for this movie, Church?
I will give it a 7. I think a 7 is fair because I liked it a lot, but obviously it's not great. It's what you expect from a 2000s superhero movie, for better or for worse.
And and to this day, Ed Norton is probably still the greatest Hulk actor of all time.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. I think,
I mean, some people would tell you Eric Bana. I would tell them they're wrong and they're on crack, and I should go get some help.
But yeah, Edward Norton was. It's weird because like if you look at all the Hulk actors, none of them even look like comic Bruce to me. Like, you know, like I mean, you know how like Tony has or Robert Downey Jr. has the look. Like Benedict
he looks exactly like Tony, bro.
Look. Like Bruce, they forget about Bruce. They only care about Hulk. Like
exactly. Like we were supposed to get a Hulk Bruce scene in Age of Ultron. Never happened.
Did we get the mirror scene? Was that the Ang Lee movie or was that?
That was Ang Lee.
That was gas.
Yeah. But let's go ahead and move on to the sequel to Iron Man. Wait, actually, I didn't even get my scores for Incredible Hulk. I gave it like a 7 out of 10.
Sam. Yeah, you said Sam.
Oh, all right, bet. So Iron Man 2 was the sequel to Iron Man, of course. It featured Nick Fury in a more prominent role this time, and it also debuted Kobe Smulders as Maria Hill. It was received well, despite a lot of critics acknowledging that it was not as good as Iron Man, and the villain was not good at all. It also debuted Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow. Church, what do you think about Iron Man 2? I don't want to say it's forgettable, but it's forgettable. That's fair to say.
It had moments because like this is the first time we saw War Machine, right? You said.
Yeah, that's too. I actually have to say that too.
Like I didn't know anything about Iron Man. So
this is the start of Terrence Howard jokes because Terrence Howard got recast as Don Cheadle.
That I did not like that. I felt like what I liked about Terrence Howard was like he commanded like the screen. You know what I mean? Like he
has like no disrespect to Don Cheadle, but like Terrence Howard had charisma.
And that was part of the contract thing, right? He wanted to be paid and like propped up, like I'm the same as Robert Downey Jr. Where Don was like okay with being on the side because
he was the one who got Robert Downey Jr. hired.
Yeah.
So and then he got like I forgot how much money Terrence Howard got for Iron Man, but it was like in the millions. And they wanted to kind of restructure his contract, like, yo, we don't want to pay you as much type shit. And he was like, no.
I mean, I'm sure he maybe somewhat regrets that now, but it was pride. Like he wanted to be War Machine is bad now. So like I wish he would have stayed. And like, but either way, like when I first saw War Machine, I thought he was really cool.
Yeah,
like, I thought the way they did it, their chemistry was nice.
I mean, it was really nice. They had I'll get into that earlier, but Howard's salary for Iron Man was $3.5 million, with the promise of an extra $5 million if the sequel got greenlit, and they didn't want to pay up straight up.
That's tough.
Yeah,
that's really tough.
It happened and it's fucked up. But Don Cheadle's not a bad War Machine. It's just the material they give him isn't good at all. Like he's very
much a safe pick. Like like it's kind of like indicative of like a bigger problem for the MCU where like they play it safe. Yeah, it's kind of like they got a safe pick. They get safe directors. It's safe. He's I don't want to say Don's a yes man because I feel like it's disrespectful, but like.
No, he'd be clapping back at people on Twitter.
He's not gonna fight the bag. Don's real, bro. He's not gonna fumble no bag just because it's a bag is a bag.
Yeah, this was also a loose adaptation of the Demon in a Bottle story from the Iron Man comics. Tony becoming an alcoholic because he's confronted with his own mortality once again.
Yeah, and there was
So
obviously some positive things, but all in all, it wasn't great. I would give it
yeah,
like a 6, maybe like a
I
5,
would.
round there.
I probably give it like a 5 because like Mickey Rourke was just not a good villain at all.
Not, yeah, that was.
Whiplash was not good at all, and then what they did at the end was pretty much just gave him a souped up Iron Man suit, and it just felt lazy. Like,
Yeah, I
mind
think
you, it gave us probably one of the better scenes in Iron Man history, I guess, or one MCU history with them fighting all the drones. That was a really cool scene. But like,
I was
besides,
able to forgive them because I feel like they bodied the first one, so the second one's never gonna live up to it. The first
I
one, so
mean,
I was like,
that's not necessarily
it's
true.
I mean, it's not, but at the time, I was like, oh, okay, whatever.
Hmm.
They'll get it back for the third. Because sometimes sequels are like that. Because
Yeah,
origin films are easy to get because it's like, you know, origin films. There's stuff to start with, but when you make a sequel, where do you go?
yeah.
You're free. So there's always sometimes it's a little eh. But yeah, I give it like a 5 or 6, like you said.
What'd you think of Black Widow in this movie?
She was cool because I didn't know anything about Black Widow either, and
Yeah,
I thought she was like, I saw what they were doing. Obviously, when you
and I
add a
think
character like that, especially back then,
yeah,
they try to make her the like appeal thing. She's
yeah,
not so much that anymore, which is good. But you know what they added her for. But she was really cool. Like I always like secret agent stuff, so I was like hyped to see her. And obviously now we know how huge she is.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it was cool seeing her.
yeah. Something I remember watching. Like, you gotta remember with all these movies, like this is probably a whole generation's first introduction to comic book characters.
Yeah, it is. It
Like,
was. Yeah.
yeah, this is the first time I had seen or heard of Black Widow. So people were this was a moment in time. Honestly, I remember seeing this movie the first time. I thought it was good, and then I watched it like I think on Netflix. This was back on Netflix when Netflix had Marvel movies all the time before they had to re-up the deal. But like, I remember watching this on Netflix. I was like, this can't be the same movie.
Yeah, man. Wasn't great. Wasn't
Yeah,
great.
I give it a 5 straight up. It could have been better. I wish it was better, but they gotta do what they gotta do. Next thing though, was Thor. We finally got Thor, the debut of Chris Hemsworth Thor. He was an all-ball character to say the least. He was serious. He didn't fit the MCU mode, I think. I kind of feel like he had he had a really good cast around him. He had Natalie Portman, he had Kat Dennings. You said that with like a tinge of your voice, bro. You got something to say or something like that?
Nah, I didn't mean it like that. I don't know why I said it like that.
You said that with some thirst, bro.
Cat, yeah,
Yeah, you know what the fuck going on. But yeah, it had a good cast around it. It just didn't come together. It felt like you know how actors do like for the bag movies. This is definitely a for the bag movie for Natalie Portman.
Did it feel like it kind of had like identity issues? Like it
Yeah,
was like a big mythological thing, but it kind of felt like it was filmed in college. Like
yeah, that was something that a lot of reviewers said too. Like this was a lot of grand exercise of grand scaling, but like it didn't have substance.
yeah, it's kind of like Oblivion, like the Elder Scrolls game, where it's got all this
Yeah,
big lore, but you're spending most of the time glitching out and like weird, wacky stuff's happening. Like it felt like, on one hand, you had all this mythological backstory and like the background, like it was a
yeah,
backdrop, and then you just had a college sitcom.
yeah.
It was a really strange mix. Like it felt like it didn't have a lot of confidence in what it was. Like they were kind of afraid, like,
To
how do
go
we
full
deal
into
with
it.
this? Is our first like dealing in something like this, like something
Yeah,
mythological. How do we even? It's like they just put it out. Like we did our best.
yeah. They did that, and then like, and up until like 2 years ago, Loki was the more popular character.
Yeah, he was. And
Yeah, like
could argue that he kind of not still is, but still was.
yeah,
Like, because people love Loki, man.
yeah,
I thought he was raw in the movie. He was my favorite part.
Yeah, this is the star of the Loki fandom, definitely, because he was I guess he was the main villain, if you really want to count it. You could also say Laufey, the Frost Giant King. But yeah, like a lot of things did hit in this movie. The CGI was iffy.
Hmm.
A lot of things, and then like they had my man who played Punisher, I forgot his name, uh, as I think Balder. Like he had a fucking goatee and shit. I was like, what is going on here?
Hmm.
Yeah, so like a lot of things, a lot of this just didn't hit. I remember being so excited to see this movie on on Thursday. Like this is before Thursday screenings were like a normal thing. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I had to be like 13 going to see this movie. I was so excited, and it just didn't hit. Like I remember being in the theater and thinking it didn't hit. I was like, oh
I really wasn't super critical back then, so like I love everything I would watch when I was like that young. But
yeah.
obviously now I'm thinking back, I'm like, ugh. I mean, but we're in the future episodes. We're gonna talk about how like what we got later made me kind of miss what we got back then. That's all I'm gonna
Yeah,
say.
yeah. All right. What would you give this movie out of 10? I'd give it a solid. If Iron Man 2 was a 5, I think Iron Man 2 is better than this. I
I
would
think
have to
Iron
give it
Man
like
2
a
is
4.
way better. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the thing.
I would have to give this like a 4.
Yeah, I think I'll settle 3, 4. Yeah.
4 purely because of bleached eyebrows. Straight up.
Oh, every time I see a picture, it throws me off. I'm like, what were they thinking? It doesn't look natural.
I remember Kevin Feige said like last year, like he felt bad for making Chris Hemsworth bleach his eyebrows.
He looks like Super Saiyan 3, bruh.
Bro, gee, wow, that's perfect.
Yeah, like I was like, ugh, ugh. I was like, God, because like you look at him now, he looks so natural. They just kind of gave up on making him look like Thor, to be fair.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, he looks like how Thor looks now, except without the
yeah, but
gold.
why does he look like that now? For that
Yeah,
reason. Like,
exactly.
uh, so he just looks like Chris Hemsworth now. But back
Straight
then,
up.
I don't know what they were. I don't know what that was, man.
Yeah.
Jesus.
He didn't even get his helmet, dude. I remember that.
He still
People,
don't. He still doesn't have his helmet.
he kind of got it in Ragnarok, but that wasn't really his helmet.
That was just an Easter egg,
Yeah.
really.
But next thing we got Captain America: First Avenger. This is the debut of Chris Evans' Captain America. This movie was received well by a lot of people. It got some negative reviews, but it was generally good. This was Chris Evans' second Marvel role. He was previously the Human Torch, but he also had people around him, such as I think this is the debut of younger, Howard Stark.
Yeah.
Haley Atwell as Peggy. Tommy Lee Jones in the most random role ever. And yeah, this I'm gonna keep it a G. This is the first movie where I just didn't want to flat out see it. Like my friend had to drag me to the movie. This is the first one. My friend had to drag me to the movie theater to go see with him.
Wow, I was excited. Now, you want to know why I was excited? I didn't know anything about Cap, but do you remember Dexter's Laboratory? How they had like that bootleg Avengers?
Yeah.
I was like, dude, bro, that guy looks like the guy off of Dexter. I want to go. Because they had like the bootleg Thor, the bootleg Captain America. I was like, bro, this is like Dexter come to life.
They had like Purple Hulk or some shit. I remember that.
Chris Evans, like growing up. I mean, I still do, and so I was like, this is everything that I want. Like I'm excited, and I mean, for me at least, it paid off. But I'll let you go first because I don't know what you feel about it. So
like, it just didn't seem appealing to me. Like it looked like it was gonna be boring as fuck to me. Mm-hmm. And then I got to the theater, and I'm not even slandering, bro. This is legitimately the first time I ever fell asleep in a movie, dog.
Oh my god!
Like I'm not even bullshitting, bro. I fell asleep during the Captain America Red Skull fight. Dead ass knocked out. I woke up like right before he crashed.
Red Skull was raw though.
He was mid to me in this movie, just only because
portrayal. I'm not saying like he did anything worth noting, but it's
but like. They gave the nigga super strength, and like he was like, that's why we're supposed to try. That's why we should respect him. I was like, what? Huh? Like this nigga's a Nazi. He's supposed to be evil to the core. This feels like generic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like the dude who portrayed him did a good job. Like this is relatively accurate, but it just felt like bare bones, kind of like with Thor. It felt lackluster.
Yeah. Like I really, to this day, I still love it. It still kind of gets me emotional, especially like the end, like with Peggy and all that. Like, I was really like, I mean, that's a real big tragedy. obviously they sort of like got really facetious later with their relationship for reasons, but like at the time, I really enjoyed like the sort of futility in it because this guy, girl he like finally got, she's dead, or it's over almost,
Yeah,
and like I love the origin, like him turning into Cap, like Chris Evans in a role that like no one, I don't think anyone could really see him portraying a character with so much like emotional like weight
death.
to him. And yeah, and like, cause I'd seen him in a couple other movies, and he was always like the Chad, like he was always like the push you in a locker type guy.
Even into Fantastic Four, that's what he was.
Yeah, and so I was like, when I saw, I was like, I didn't know he was capable of something like this, and I loved his relationship with Bucky, and like, I'm not one for like ultra nationalism, but I didn't really feel like this movie really showed that as much as the comics tend to do.
Uh-huh.
Like he was sort of just a guy fighting for his country. He wasn't preaching like all that. He almost looked uncomfortable in the nationalism. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like, cause like there was stuff he didn't want to do. Like when he was doing the little show with him like punching Hitler, it's kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And like it's like kind of Superman-y in a way. But like, yeah, I like First Avenger, man. I like it a lot. Everyone slanders it, but I still
Honestly, people
like
don't even slander it like that. Like I've seen a lot of takes in the last couple weeks saying that Captain America has the best superhero trilogy of all time. I can't agree. I just can't agree because like this movie, like Batman, like when like for context, for when Batman Begins dropped, that was probably the greatest superhero movie of all time at that point. When
Yeah, I
Captain
mean,
America
yeah.
First Avenger dropped, I fell asleep. You know what I'm saying? It just not. This just wasn't it for me. And like, I'm not even sure if this was a bad movie. I just know it was. It didn't hit for me at all. And I've actually gone back and rewatched this, and like, it was better than I remembered, but it still wasn't good to me. You know?
There's definitely some boring bits. I'm not gonna lie, but like, all in all, I still appreciate it because it was kind of scaled down, and then I liked the period pieces, and the ending was great when
Yeah.
just him waking up in the future, and they try to like put a world around him that looked
They
familiar.
they thought they were just gonna sit. I just want to know their plan. Like, did they think they were just gonna
I don't
send
think they
60
had one.
years?
It's a weird scenario. I don't think you could really judge them for trying. It's just like, what do you say to a guy like that?
Yeah. But like, what would you give this movie out of 10?
I will give it an 8. I think an 8 for me is fair.
I would give it a
Talk
hard.
to a 7 though. I could be talking.
I will give it a hard 6.
Okay, that's fair.
Like I want to like this movie. I generally like more grounded characters. This wasn't it for me.
I mean, I get it. It's fine. Like I understand. I understand why people like. I think you're right. I don't think people dislike it. I think they're pretty like just in the middle with it. I never hear like overtly slanderous things. Like no one's out here giving it a 2 or 3, but
Yeah.
they're all giving it like 5s and 6s, and I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm with that.
All right. The next movie we got in the last of Phase 1 is an absolute moment in time, the first of its kind, Avengers, the Avengers movie. After 4 years of build up, we got the first ever superhero team up movie of all time, and quite possibly the greatest of all time. This was received well by fans and critics alike. It was great. It introduced Mark Ruffalo's Hulk and the cameo featuring Thanos, the Mad Titan, and this is the start of the kind of the cosmic expansion of the MCU. Church, what do you think about the Avengers?
Man, I think even to this day, I'm kind of like marvel at how it was made and how smoothly it came together, and like the planning because this is an ambitious project. This is the biggest risk that studio has ever taken because there's no guarantee, man. If this blows up, it throws everything out. I mean, like if this goes poorly, it throws everything out of whack. And but it lived up to what it was supposed to be, and like when I first saw it, I loved it. I mean, I still like it, of course, but like I'm it's tough. It's tough to say. Like, I think the villains were great. I think their chemistry was great. Everything worked like it was supposed to. But I don't know.
Billionaire playboy
Nowadays, there's
philanthropist.
something that's to now when I look at it, there's something that's missing from it, and I don't know what it
I
is.
feel I feel this is how I feel about Avengers. It's a great movie, don't get me wrong, but like it we get on it more for being a moment of time. Like this was you remember when you went to go see Avengers in the movie for the first time.
Right.
You remember how hyped you were, you remember how excited you were, you remember the ride there and shit like that. This was an absolute moment in time. But I'm not saying it didn't have substance because it had a lot of it, but we remember it more for being that moment and not more for what it was. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like you said before, the chemistry was great, the story was good, but like some things didn't hit. And that
There's
was
a
in
ton of quotables too. Like
yeah.
and that like put on the suit is one of my
Take,
favorites.
take away the suit. What are you, billionaire, genius, playboy, philanthropist? Like that's a bar. That's a bar.
And
No,
like how they were dealing with Thor. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the beginning, like when he was trying to get Loki, and it was just a ego battle, and I
Yeah.
like that challenge because that's the one thing that sort of has lasted since
Yeah.
it lasted the test of time is Cap and Iron Man kind of being the alphas, and like Thor's kind of apathetic. He doesn't really because he's just gonna do his own thing. Those two have had a long history of that, and like
I remember a new Avengers book, and like I forgot what was happening, but Captain America and Iron Man were fighting, and Spider-Man said something like, "Mommy and Daddy are fighting again." I was like, "Dog, that's perfect."
and we have to because like impact wise, right? Like no, besides Iron Man, I don't think any MCU film is more important than this. I think this launched everything.
I think there's maybe one.
Which one would you say? Infinity War?
Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier? Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair. But like Avengers, like they had a lot riding on this because, like they had a couple misses, like
Yeah,
Iron
this is
Man,
the payoff to everything.
Thor,
Incredible Hulk,
and so like they're like, okay, it's a little shaky. We're gonna throw them in a team movie.
See what happens.
That is a shot. That's a pull up from 3.
Yeah. And that's a Steph pull from 40 from the logo.
I mean, I would trust that more than this, to be honest. But like, they had a lot riding on it, and since this was a success, look what it spawned.
Yeah.
Now Marvel can literally put out a team movie with relative ease. Almost every movie's a team movie at this point, because like the cast is so strong, and like they get a lot of characters who are main characters. So.
And like they've tried to do it with the Marvel Netflix show, and they couldn't replicate it.
They did.
Like Defenders couldn't match the quality at all, and they had 7 episodes to do so, something like that. And it's just this was like I said, this was a moment in time, not to be duplicated ever again. And like there's the only thing that's kind of matched this hype was Infinity War. It made $2 billion. Like, and it's one of the biggest things in the history of motion pictures, to be honest. So yeah, how'd you feel about the Thanos cameo? What was your reaction when you first saw Thanos?
I didn't know who it was because like I was sort of, my mom's a big Marvel fan, so she was the one telling me all this stuff. Like she was telling me who it was, and I was like, I was like, I don't know who this person is, but he seems pretty cool. Like we're clearly building towards something, and it kind of put into perspective how I think Avengers finally gave me the scope of how big this franchise was going to be, because like when you see a threat like that, and they're clearly not going to use them right now, because that's what my mom was. My mom was like, they're not going to use that character anytime soon. They can't.
Mm-hmm.
That's like end game. It's a joke. That's like an end game type thing. I was like, man, how big is this going to be? Are we going to get? I'm like, there's no way we're going to get these movies for like 5 years. And then,
nigga, got you.
Yeah, they got me. I was shocked, man. I was like, there's a lot of foot here. They're really being ambitious.
All right, so don't laugh at me, right? The first time I saw Thanos G, I thought it was Super Skrull.
That's funny, especially right now.
Yeah, I thought it was Super Skrull because like I saw the lines on his chin. I was like, that's a Skrull chin. Holy shit, that's Super Skrull. I'm like, how the fuck they get Fantastic Four villains? I was like, hold up. Let me do my Googles real quick and see what it is. Whole time it was Thanos.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about that we had Thanos in like 2012, 2011, and like he came before Darkseid in film. Even it's like it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy, man.
Absolutely nuts to think how far came from then. But how we touched on it a little bit before. Like, how'd you feel about Mark Ruffalo's Hulk? Because he got recast.
This was his only good appearance to me.
Really?
Yeah, this is the only time Mark Ruffalo's Hulk was ever good. Because it was the first time we saw him. First impressions are usually, the best. So,
oh my god.
Once you finally see the party trick, like when you see a party trick for the first time, it's fire, and then every time after, you're like, all right, man.
Yeah, that's perfect actually. But yeah, like Avengers is a moment in time. I would definitely give this movie like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I would give it. I think this is the first movie, like thinking now, like the first movie I've ever had an issue with like tone, because I felt like, especially with the shawarma scene, like I feel like they were way too. I think this is the beginning when MCU kind of started taking like death lightly.
Yeah.
And like I never noticed it as a kid because you don't, but like when I see it now, I'm like, they really didn't
mourn
really
Coulson.
Yeah, they didn't really. Well, yeah, and then we saw what came from Coulson, but there were probably thousands dead in the Chitauri invasion, and like, let's go get shawarma. Like after a battle like that, you sort of you're like mourning. You're like, man, this was a tough battle, but they kind of. When the joke started hitting, and that's that Joss Whedon pack, and then that had also influence on the rest of the universe. So this had a lot of I think this is a turning point of everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
For better or worse, depending on your perspective.
Yeah. For better or for worse, for sure.
All right. And then that's all we got for phase 1. We'll be coming back to y'all with phase 2 very soon. Actually, what am I saying? I'm probably going to edit this part out and just go straight into phase 2. Whatever. We out. See y'all later.